I caught my wife with 2 men, destroyed them all, and got my revenge. Hi, everyone. I'm 33. Before I get into my story, let me ask, what would you do if you found your wife, the one you trusted completely, in your marital bed with 2 other men? I met my wife, Tracy. She's 29. At the cinema. I went to a movie premiere with some friends. She came with her girlfriends. There was a spark that night, and not long after we started dating. We were together for a year, then we got married. What began as a simple friendship became the saddest and most romantic story of my life. At the start of our marriage, it felt like marrying Tracy was a blessing. We were happy, and I did everything I could as a man and as her husband to support her dreams and push her to be better. The first 2 years of our marriage were solid. Tracy was kind, caring, and smart. I'd say she was everything I dreamt of in a woman, charming with a refined personality. Most of all, I appreciated her honesty. Tracy worked at a cafe, and I was a graphic designer at a company that printed banners, billboards, and did design work. We both earned okay money, but I covered most household expenses because Tracy was putting hers toward her dream. Before we married, she told me she'd always wanted to be an actress but never had the chance. Her parents didn't support it. They pushed her toward a safer college major because acting seemed, in their eyes, undignified. When Tracy told me about her dream and asked if I'd be okay with her pursuing acting, I supported her. I'd also never become who I'd hoped to be, so I knew what it felt like to want something and not have the chance to chase it. I encouraged her to join drama groups, take volunteer roles, and participate in projects that might get her closer to that dream. We planned she'd go to theater school once we saved enough money. I backed her because she was talented. Sure, she could be moody and dramatic, but she could act. She'd already taken some courses and watched 1,000 YouTube acting tutorials. Her seriousness showed. I didn't want to be the guy who crushed her dream. We postponed having kids because of her school plans. We thought we'd start a family after she finished. I believed by then she'd land decent roles on stage or maybe even in film. I was the one who pushed her to audition and join productions so others could see her talent. I wanted the best for her. When Tracy asked if she could keep pursuing acting, we were still in the first year of our marriage, and everything between us was idyllic. We never fought seriously. She was like a sweet peach, respectful and loving. During that first year, she kept applying for volunteer roles online with no success. Eventually, she grew tired of the rejections and focused on a new job. I kept encouraging her not to give up. Luckily, a few months after our first anniversary, she got a call back, an audition for a theater production looking for new actors. Tracy was over the moon. The auditions were in our city and rehearsals were mostly on weekends, which seemed perfect. She passed the audition and got the part. She was radiant. Another bonus. The actors were paid for participating, and the rehearsals were mainly weekends. I didn't expect Tracy to change the way she did after rehearsals started. At first, the first few weeks, everything was as before. We still talked and lived our usual life. The only real difference was we spent less time together on weekends because rehearsals took up her time. She'd get up, clean, cook, leave for rehearsal, and come home late. I didn't like it, but I didn't complain. I didn't want to ruin her first serious chance. Besides, she was making more on those weekends than she did all week. Over time, distance grew between us. To occupy myself on weekends, I played video games, met friends, or had them over. One of my friends, Eric, warned me to keep an eye on her. There were rumors that some actresses sleep with directors for roles. I brushed it off and defended Tracy, saying she wouldn't sleep with anyone for a part. She was talented. Foolish of me. The comment stuck in the back of my mind, and I started asking Tracy small, subtle questions. When she noticed I was different, she started complaining about my questions and the way I treated her. I had to apologize and told her what my friend had said. She just laughed and swore she couldn't cheat on me because she loved me too much, that I was the best husband in the world and only a stupid, ungrateful woman would betray me. That put me at ease. I wish I'd known. She had already started cheating, long before that conversation. Over the next week, Tracy became unrecognizable. Our talks turned strained. The excitement she used to have for rehearsals vanished. She used to gush about everything that happened at rehearsals, names, faces, personalities. We were that close. Then, she went quiet. She grew defensive, took offense at almost everything I said, even old jokes. She updated her wardrobe, dresses she wore only to rehearsals, and they were pretty revealing. I told her I didn't like it. She said it was fashionable and I didn't understand. I thought she was just trying to keep up with other actresses. I knew she liked competing with her look. Cheating never crossed my mind. But the doubts crept in when she started changing her hairstyle weekly and constantly talking on the phone to a man she introduced as a scene partner. One night, she did something that really set me off. When I voiced my displeasure, she yelled and left the house. It was the first time she acted like that, and I knew something had to change. Later that night, I talked to my friends. They insisted Tracy was cheating. I argued she might be going through a tough patch and taking it out on me, but the friends urged me to hire a private detective if I wanted the truth. I didn't like the idea of someone following my wife, but because of how drastically she changed, I agreed. I found a detective online and hired him to follow her for 7 days. On the 3rd day, she didn't come home after rehearsal. The next day, she came back and told me she'd been at a fellow actress's birthday party at a club and slept at a nearby hotel because it felt safer than driving home late. She had never mentioned that party. I called her until 3 a.m. When she finally answered, she lied, saying she hadn't heard because the music was loud, and later pretended she had told me. I wasn't buying it, but I told myself the detective would prove the truth. I hadn't heard from the detective for a while, and when he finally got in touch, I was out of town visiting my parents. I was already heading back when he messaged that he had something to show me. Instead of going home first, I went straight to him. Tracy didn't know I was returning that day. I'd told her I'd stay with my parents until Monday, but I came back on Saturday. When I met the detective, he showed me photos and videos that knocked the wind out of me. Pictures of Tracy with a blonde guy, kissing in the car, shopping together, having dinner. Video from that night she claimed to be at a birthday. She'd spent the entire night with that guy, and around 10 p.m., they had gone to his place where she stayed. That meant she saw my calls and deliberately ignored them. I was shattered. Tracy seemed like someone I could build a future with, and she'd just destroyed it. The detective told me he'd been tailing her that night and that she and the blonde were now in my house. He'd just left and was calling me. I was so angry I wanted to smash everything. I couldn't drive. The detective drove me home. When we pulled up, I saw a blue Toyota Venza in the driveway, the same car from the photos and videos. I knew Tracy was inside with him. The detective offered to go in with me. I don't even remember if I agreed. The next thing I recall, I was in the house, opening the bedroom door, and I saw Tracy with 2 men in the middle of it. I lost it and didn't know who to attack first. Tracy was in sheer silk lingerie, her hands bound to the bed. When they saw me, they tried to get up, but the handcuffs stopped them. I lunged at the blonde. The other guy grabbed his clothes and ran off like a rat. Luckily, the detective was there and stopped me from killing anyone. Tracy was still bound to the bed, begging. She said I had it all wrong. They were rehearsing a scene from the play. Her stupid excuse made me furious, and I nearly throttled her, but instead I left the room and told her to be out of the house by the time I returned. The detective told me he'd recorded everything and handed me the footage. I didn't know what to do with it, but I kept it. That night I crashed at a friend's place. I felt humiliated. My friend had been right about Tracy and her new acting world, but the most painful thing was that she'd had a threesome in our bedroom, on our bed. The next morning she was still at the house and hadn't gone to rehearsal. Apparently, she knew she'd messed up. I was furious, so I threw her out and dumped her stuff on the lawn. She begged me, screamed for an hour at the porch, begged to be let back in. When regret and fake contrition didn't work, she switched to insults and then left. This happened last week, and I've only now managed to tell it. I still can't wrap my head around how it happened right under my nose. I wasn't a controlling husband. We split bills, she did a lot of the housework, and I kept my emotions in check. I mention this because I've read stories about guys ignoring red flags. Now looking back, I know I should have dug deeper when communication disappeared and her wardrobe changed. But is that what marriage is? To start suspecting the moment your partner buys a new outfit or gets tired from work? I don't think so. What bothers me most is that she won't stop calling. I keep thinking about that video and I want to show it to her director. Update. Hey everyone. Thanks for the comments so far. Glad most of you don't think my actions were excessive. Someone suggested I find out who the second guy in the video was. I did. Guess what? He's now dating Tracy's director. The director is non-hetero. I can imagine how angry he'll be when he learns Tracy seduced his boyfriend. By the way, 3 days ago, Tracy came by looking terrible. Swollen, tear-streaked eyes, all miserable. I had friends over and they didn't say anything to her, but their looks alone infuriated her. She snapped at me. So this is how you let your friends treat your wife, just because of some little fight? She begged me for forgiveness on the porch the whole time. I didn't come out. I sat inside and listened. That one line set me off, and I stormed out, ready to tell her everything I thought. A friend stopped me just in time. I was so angry I felt ready to assault someone, anything to make it worth it. Before she left, she ranted about our vows and how we promised to grow old together. I boiled with rage, but couldn't bring myself to act. After a while, she asked about the theater school I'd promised to pay for. I wanted to tell her to go ask her lover for support, but I stayed silent and just wanted her to leave. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer. Papers are being prepared and will be sent to her for signature. As for revenge, I'll do what you suggested. Maybe the director won't completely wreck her career just from the video, but he'll certainly stamp out everything she'd worked for these last months. The fact she slept with her director's boyfriend only makes me want to pay her back more. Thanks. More updates soon. Update 2. Hi again. I'm writing this with excitement because things turned out even worse for Tracy than I expected. It took me 2 weeks to track down her director online, and I did. He's just starting out as a filmmaker but shows promise. We arranged to meet, and he came. I didn't waste time. After some small talk, I showed him the video of his boyfriend, the blonde, and Tracy. He was devastated. He cried. He admitted he'd suspected his boyfriend was messing around with someone from the cast but had no proof. He also said the boyfriend had cheated once before and promised it was alcohol. But that didn't interest me. I wanted to know what the director would do to Tracy and the blonde. When I asked, he said he hadn't decided. I told him it'd be weak to let them go unpunished, especially after what Tracy had done. Long story short, he fired Tracy and the blonde. I don't know if he broke up with his boyfriend, but Tracy was left with nothing. Watching the fruits of her work crumble satisfied me. I wanted her to feel what it's like to give everything to something and lose it all because of another person. By the time she was fired, the divorce papers were already ready, and my lawyer had sent them. The day she got them, she called, begging me not to destroy what we built. I told her she'd already destroyed it the minute she entertained thoughts of cheating. I also told her I was the one who showed the director the video, and I hung up when she tried to paint me as jealous. 2 weeks ago, she signed the papers. I'm divorced now. It hurts, but I'm glad she's no longer in my life. What do you think? Is this behavior acceptable in a creative profession? I know most of you will say no. Of course it's unacceptable. But think about it. Creativity often comes from inspiration, and people find inspiration in new relationships. Can an actor feel betrayal without betraying? Can they feel a new passion without a new object of passion? I can already feel you tearing me apart in the comments. Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think this is ever justifiable for someone in a creative job? Would love to hear your take.